This is the Stanley Hotel, one of the most haunted hotels in America, and one of the biggest tourist attractions in Colorado. We interviewed Connie Coppersmith, a ghost hunter, and asked her how she got started and what she thinks about the Stanley Hotel.
I got into ghost hunting about 5.5 years ago. Like everybody else, I watched all the shows, got hooked, and thought, wow, this would be so cool to do. But I accidentally stumbled across an event up at the Stanley Hotel. That place had been on my radar for so many years. I didn't really understand the pull for it. It was even before the shows started, so it's always kind of been a place that had my attention.
The Stanley Hotel was built in 1906 by F.O. Stanley as a place for tuberculosis patients like him so they could get up into the high altitude which would help cure their tuberculosis. We interviewed Brett Wilson, a podcast creator for Estes Park, and asked him to tell us a little bit more about the Stanley Hotel.
This is the Stanley Hotel we're sitting in front of right now, and it's in February. And this was built in 1906 by F.O. Stanley. It was a Neo-Georgian style, very, very posh hotel. And F.O. Stanley came out here from the east because he had an ailment. His doctors recommended get up into the high altitude, and it would help take care of his tuberculosis, actually. And he and his wife, he had traveled out here, liked it, decided to move here. He and his wife loved the place. His wife was a piano player, and there are still reports of hearing Mrs. Stanley play the piano in the music room right over here down the hall. There's a lot of paranormal activity. People claim to see and hear unusual things. There's a cowboy up in one of the rooms that is he wears a cowboy hat, and he, will appear and kind of scare people, but he's never hurt anybody. They're all friendly spirits. Also, there is, on the fourth floor, you'll hear children, sometimes just faint children playing in the fourth floor. But it's most famous, the Stanley Hotel, I think, is best known because it is where Stephen King was inspired to write his novel, the classic novel, The Shining, which was made into a movie. The movie The Shining was not filmed, as I had mentioned, here. However, they're starting to create a hedge, the maze that's in the movie, towards the end of The Shining, and it looks a lot like that.
Most people come here to stay the night in the most haunted rooms, room 217, 402, 207, and 418. In room 207, a young housekeeper, Elizabeth Wilson, died when a spark ignited a pocket of gas. Guests report seeing doors and windows open and close and seeing lights flicker on and off. These haunted rooms are booked years in advance.
In fact, there's a story that Jim Carrey was staying in room 207 that Stephen King had written and been inspired to write The Shining in, and he came running down. He'd only been up there a couple hours, Jim Carrey, and he came running down the stairs, out here, came running down these outside stairs, and would not go back in. He made somebody else go in. He looked terrified. He made somebody else go back in for his luggage, and that's the story. I do have some friends who have taken pictures in here with even just their cell phone cameras and gotten orbs and gotten like a little girl by a tricycle that's in here, that was set up in here, an old antique tricycle. She thought she saw the cowboy sitting in the Stanley steamer. F.O. Stanley, I didn't mention, also was the one who created and built the Stanley steamers, these old cars back in the early 1900s.
Now that you've heard the stories, next time you have a bizarre experience, keep your mind open to the possibilities.